Well, hello everyone. Yes, week 17 of the regular season is in the books. That means the regular season is over. And as a result, we at least know for sure the top 18 picks and the correct order for the 2021 NFL Draft. As a result, I am here to give you updated mock draft. I believe this is version 4.0. So if this is your first time checking me out, you might want to smash the subscribe button because I got a lot more of these mock drafts in the months to come. And by the end of the month, you're going to have scouting reports. And my track record with the scouting reports on players isn't the worst by any stretch of the imagination, especially when it comes to the quarterback position. That's all I'm going to say. So make sure you check it out. So here we are, regular season in the books. We know who the top 18 picks are as of right now. Most importantly, I guess, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you know who has the number one overall pick. It's you. You won the Lose for Lawrence, the Tank for Trevor sweepstakes. Hooray! And as it stands right now, even though he did not play all that particularly well, especially in relation to Justin Fields in that semifinal game, you still have Trevor Lawrence going number one overall. The view being him being a once-in-a-generation type of quarterback talent. That doesn't mean that I agree. That doesn't mean that I disagree. I have not given you my full opinions on Trevor Lawrence or any of these other quarterbacks yet. But by the time we get through January, you'll have a pretty good idea of where we stand on these guys. And that may mean that my mock drafts look a little different and I wait for the league to catch up to me, or it means that my player rankings aren't going to be necessarily reflected by the draft. But if you're the Jags, I mean, it's the easy no-brainer. You got the number one overall pick in what is viewed to be a strong quarterback class. You take who you think is the best quarterback, and you build around them. And, it's potentially an appealing option for somebody to come in as a general manager because you'd have the ability to hire your own head coach. You've got not only the Jags' number one overall pick, but you have the pick from the Rams for that Jaylen Ramsey trade. So you're talking about multiple first-round picks, lots of draft pick capital, and around $80 million as it stands right now in salary cap space. Jacksonville's certainly not the worst situation to walk into right now if you're a new general manager and certainly a new head coach, especially if you're looking at having a young quarterback that you could build around. Where it gets interesting, and you'll see a lot of debate, I think, in the months to come, is the Jets. And what do they do with that second pick? You'll have those in the camp of, well, you already have Sam Darnold, and Sam's not that bad. Just give him somebody that's not Adam Gase screwing him up, and he'll be okay. You'll have others that say, nope, time to wipe the slate clean and move on, get a young quarterback, get a better quarterback. Don't want to tie ourselves together forever with Sam Darnold. And I got to admit, at the moment, I'm kind of in that second camp. Because you got to look at it. Even if you want to blame Adam Gase for Sam Darnold still makes some really bad plays, some really horrible decisions, some really bad throws. He makes some spectacular ones too, yes, but really a yo-yo similar to what he was at USC, up and down. And I guess here would be my concern if I'm the Jets. When am I potentially going to get into the position of where I could feel like I could draft another young franchise-changing quarterback? Sure, did it 3 years ago. Required trading 3 second-round picks to move up from 6 to 3 to go get Sam Darnold. But when you look at it, you say, okay, you tie yourself to Darnold for another year, who was the quarterback selection of a previous regime. He's now technically went through 2 head coaches. Why would you want to tie yourself to that? Especially knowing that you have to make a decision over the next few months about whether or not you're going to pick up his 5th-year option. If you're going to pick up his 5th-year option, it doesn't make a ton of sense to take a quarterback here. But then all of a sudden, you haven't really seen a ton to have full confidence in Sam Darnold. I don't see why the Jets wouldn't take a quarterback here. You get a chance to restart the clock, and you need to anyways. What's the benefit of keeping Darnold? I know it's a little bit of, well, you're spinning your wheels type of conversation, and you kind of are. But sometimes you have to spin your wheels a little bit in order to get traction, in order to move forward. Where it starts to get really, really interesting to me, and I have the Jets taking Wilson from BYU number 2 right now. That doesn't mean that it won't end up being Fields. It doesn't mean that it won't end up being somebody else at the quarterback position. But again, if it's the Jets, they have to go the best remaining quarterback on the board. They have to, is my thought. But where it gets interesting is number 3 with Miami. Do we see a situation where the Dolphins feel like they made a mistake with Tua and they're going to move on from him? Is this a situation where they're ready to pull a Josh Rosen for Kyler Murray type of conversation? I don't buy that yet. Where I think the Dolphins are in a really good position, though, is sitting at 3. You've got some of these other teams that could be both afraid of what they might do with that 3rd pick, talking about the Dolphins, and afraid of what other teams might do, such as the Falcons at pick 4, or the Eagles maybe at 6, or even the Lions at 7. Somebody like a Carolina or a Denver maybe sitting back, or a San Francisco, like if they really value somebody like a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson, however it plays out, Miami could find themselves in a really good position here with that 3rd pick, where if they feel like they have some confidence in Tua, although based off of what you saw in 2020, they clearly don't, then you might be in a situation where you could peel back out of that 3rd pick and set yourself up well for future drafts by accumulating additional capital, which is something I certainly expect we will hear a lot about when it comes to the Dolphins in the months to come with a 3rd overall pick. They would be criminally stupid and negligent at the wheel if they didn't strongly consider some trade back options. Because, this is the Texans' pick anyways. This is what you got as part of a package to trade a non-elite left tackle. Like, take that house money and run with it. Run with it. And then at pick 4, Atlanta. You have to wonder. You're going to have a new general manager, new head coach. Matt Ryan's on the wrong side of 35. His contract in about 2 years becomes much easier and much more flexible in terms of being able to get out from under it, whether it be via trade or via release. This is not necessarily an indictment on Matt Ryan, the player, or the franchise quarterback, or what he's meant to the Falcons for the past 13 seasons. But there also comes a point in time where you have to say, you've got Matt Ryan, and you've got Julio Jones, and you've got Calvin Ridley, and you're still picking in the top fucking 5. Why would you want to continue to invest that much money into the quarterback position for some legacy crap when you've never won a Super Bowl with him? And he's on the downside of his career, even if you still feel like he's playing really well. He's not going to play at that level forever. But you're now in a position here, if you're Atlanta, top 5 pick, what appears to be a really strong quarterback draft. Why wouldn't you take one of these quarterbacks and potentially even stash him behind Matt Ryan for a year or 2? While that might not seem ideal, like, are you trying to win everything now in 2021 when you really aren't positioned to do so? You're in salary cap hell and everything else? Or are you trying to sit there and position yourself in a position of power over the next 10, 12, 15 years? And when it comes to the draft, that's absolutely what your approach should be. So Atlanta here at 4, if they passed on a quarterback and they felt like a quarterback was worthy of that pick, then they're insane. Absolutely insane. Doesn't mean Matt Ryan sucks. That's not what any of that is about. Because he doesn't suck. And it's not about that. It's about the long-term health of the Atlanta Falcons organization. It's time for them to consider getting the heir apparent for Matt Ryan. And if you say, well, taking a quarterback 4 for the here and now doesn't make any sense, okay, then what are you going to do? Take an offensive lineman? You've invested rather heavily over the years in the offensive line. Your issues on defense are well known, so you're going to take a kid like Surtain II from Alabama? Okay, so now we're in the business of taking corners in the top 5 again in a league that's even more about the offensive side of the ball? Like, Surtain is really, really good. I grant you that, but, it feels like Atlanta would be spinning their wheels a little bit with that. So does it make sense to invest that high in defensive picks? And I think you're going to see that play out too, just in terms of this draft. I think the talent is much more on the offensive side of the ball. And when you talk about quarterbacks, you certainly talk about the offensive line. The wide receiver group is really, really good. I just don't think this is the best defensive class, but I also think in some ways, as you look at my mock, Sure, the names and the slots are going to change in the next 3.5, almost 4 months. That's a guarantee. That's a given. That's the way it works every year. That's the way I always talk about. But I just wouldn't be surprised more and more unless teams are absolutely desperate for need, or they feel like they have a high-powered, explosive offense. I wonder just how many teams are going to start changing their philosophies and backing off of taking defensive players in the first round. And I could be totally off the mark here. I could be several years ahead of the curve in thinking this way. But, defenses just don't win championships anymore in the NFL. And we have to get that poisonous thought, that old man's thought, out of our minds. Sure, it's nice to play good defense. It would certainly be helpful, and maybe with the absolute perfect conditions, you could do that. But look at last year. The 49ers had a phenomenal defense. The Chiefs had a phenomenal offense. Who would you rather have? The one that won the Lombardi Trophy. So we will see how this draft plays out. For Bears fans, yes, offensive line, because now with the current position that they're in, and this is before the wild card rounds or anything like that, any of those wins and losses happen that adjust the order. Offensive line, especially the tackle position, is going to be a big need. I think we all realize that. As far as taking a quarterback here, do you really feel like Mac Jones is worthy of the 20th overall pick? Is he really that level of talent? Is he really special? Does he have that type of arm talent? Again, I'll tell you what I think as we get closer to the end of the month. But nonetheless, with the Bears, the way this whole season has worked out, those dummies are more than likely to run it all back again next year. They absolutely are. So, as a result, they're going to try and help out who they've got at the quarterback position. Oh, God, don't even get me started. But anyways, you guys can check out my mock. All 32 picks of round 1 in the description box down below. Again, make sure you smash that subscribe button. Special channel note, you're going to start seeing coming up here in the next 24 to 48 hours after this mock draft is uploaded, you're going to start seeing the team-by-team 2020 recaps. It means I'm going to look at what happened with these teams during the 2020 regular season, what went right, and more importantly, since I'm already talking about them, what went wrong, and take a look ahead at their cap situation, head coach, general manager, the draft, all of that. So hope you guys are excited for that, because I am. Let's start to put 2020 in the rearview mirror, shall we? All right. Subscribe, and thank you guys. Let me know how much you hate my mock in the comments below.